This is a CBS 4 News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Goldstein with this CBS 4 News special report. We're taking you live to the City of Miami Police Headquarters. This is a press conference with Mayor Francis Suarez and Police Chief George Colina. This is about last night's events in Miami after peaceful protests during the day turned destructive last night. Let's listen in live.
So just so you know, I'm going to say a few words. We're going to have some members of the community come and speak on behalf of the community. I'll say a few words in English and Spanish. Then we'll have the members of the community speak on behalf of the community. We're going to have our elected officials speak, and we're going to wrap up with our police chief, and then we'll take questions afterwards.
Oh my God, look.
You see that?
I know.
2 days in a row.
This is my name, man. 2 days in a row.
Okay, so we're looking here at Mayor Francis Suarez, City of Miami, where at 8 p.m. tonight the curfew goes into effect in the city. It's 9 p.m. in the county. Other leaders are there as well. As the mayor said, we'll hear from the police chief as well. But Mayor Suarez here making sure that everybody that needs to be at this press conference behind him is set to go. And we'll head back out live and rejoin the mayor as he gets set to speak again.
Ready? Let the chief, okay.
No, I don't mind, man. I don't mind. Hold myself.
Ready, Chief, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As we know, our community and our country is grieving the despicable acts, the hateful acts that took the life of George Floyd. The officer that committed that act has been arrested, and the 3 officers that prevented that death from occurring should also face similar justice. I want to thank the members of our faith community for their prayers and support, and I want to thank the members of the Miami Police Department who demonstrated incredible restraint and resolve in the face, of provocative acts and personal attacks over the past day. Public service is a public trust, and we thank them for demonstrating that restraint in a very stressful environment. I want to thank my commissioners, almost every single one of them which are here and have been supportive throughout this entire process, not just through COVID, but last night I got messages and calls of support from all of them, and they're all here today. I want to thank our city manager. I want to thank our great police chief who did a magnificent job last night, Chief Colina. I'm confident that working together as a community and as a country and as a world, that we will get through these difficult times and do right by our citizens. I want to acknowledge so many people who are here today. I'm not going to try to call them out by name because I know I'm going to forget someone. But in particular, I want to acknowledge the Rodney and Christine Belmood from the Citizens Investigation Panel. We in the city have chosen to empower our residents to provide oversight over our police department, something that other jurisdictions have not done. When I was a commissioner, I cast a deciding vote to fire a police chief that had implemented policies that led to the death of 7 African Americans in 1 year in our community. As Martin Luther King once said, and I know we've heard a lot of Dr. King in the last few days, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Injustice cannot drive out injustice. Only the rule of law can do that. Bigotry cannot drive out bigotry. Only respect and righteous restraint can do that. Starting last night, we activated a curfew to start a cool-off period to protect our residents and businesses. The length of the cool-off period will be determined by the facts on the ground. Tonight, the curfew begins at 8 p.m. and will be strictly enforced. 8 p.m. means that you can be out until right before it gets dark. You can peacefully protest as many people did yesterday. I'm very proud of the many Miamians that lined these streets that are right behind us and peacefully protested what has been a heinous act that has opened a wound in our country and in our community. We will protect our residents, their safety, and the right to enjoy their city. We will continue to root out bias and bigotry in all forms, and we will do it by respecting our residents and upholding the rule of law. I want to thank those residents for their support and their oppositions to these acts of violence and vandalism. We are strong and compassionate. We love justice and hate bigotry. And we love our city and the future we are building for everyone. Last night, 57 people were arrested, some by the city, some by the county. Some of them were from here, some of them were out of town. But I can tell you that those that were arrested came here to do something that was a dishonor to the legacy and the life of George Floyd, and that invoked the same kind of hatred that took his life. And that's something that we're not going to tolerate in the city of Miami. I saw people with my own eyes that came prepared to vandalize, to loot, and that's not something that's acceptable for us. I want to say briefly in Spanish a few words, and then I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Gaston Smith and Pastor Rich Wilkerson to provide a community perspective. I encourage you to talk to members of our community who are here, and I'm thankful for them being here. This is our community. They represent our community. They've been in the fight for social justice and equal rights reform before I was born, when my dad was the mayor. And they're going to be here long after I'm gone, and their children will be taking up their mantle. Estoy muy agradecido por la comunidad religiosa, por el Departamento de Policía, en la forma en cual ellos...
Once again, this is a CBS 4 News special report on this Sunday afternoon. It's Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, Police Chief George Colina, who's over there. You see him in uniform on the right side of your screen. We'll hear from him as well. The mayor thanking police yesterday for the restraint. He emphasized that word restraint during the protests yesterday. Mayor also stressing the team effort in the city of Miami to improve the way the police department functions overall. The mayor confirming there were 57 people arrested last night in the city of Miami, and the curfew in Miami begins tonight at 8 p.m. It will go till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning on Monday. The curfew in the county, Miami-Dade County, outside of the city parameters, will start at 9 p.m. tonight, also go through 6 a.m. And one other note, the scheduled beach reopenings in Miami-Dade County that was planned for tomorrow, June 1st, Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez has postponed the beaches opening. So the beaches will not reopen tomorrow as planned on June 1st. We're looking here as we see the mayor continue to speak over on the left side. On the right, these were some of our shots last night, what became a very difficult and a very long night from Chopper 4. We saw a number of vehicles torched last night, on fire, some of them police vehicles, and the police fairly early in the evening started with tear gas and rubber bullets to try to get the crowd to dissipate. This is where the crowd ended up going. They were on the back end of the police headquarters. Those were the front steps of the police headquarters. And once again, we saw another vehicle last night. Most of this taking place between around 7:45, 8 o'clock, and until about near 11 o'clock. Police were able to disperse the crowd, move the crowd along into a direction they wanted them to. We saw some looting in Bayside. We also saw other vandalism downtown, but the police, and when you compare it to other cities and what we've seen over the past 7 days in America, the city of Miami police, enforced by Miami-Dade County assistance as well, law enforcement, did a fairly rapid job of de-escalating the pictures you're seeing there on the right side of your screen. That was early evening, right near police headquarters downtown, with that police vehicle on fire. So again, we're looking at some of the images from yesterday, early evening into last night in the city of Miami after those what were mostly peaceful protests that started at around 3 in the afternoon downtown Miami. Eventually, those protests ended up going over to I-95 and shutting 95 in both directions briefly. And then a smaller portion of those people made their way to the Miami Police Headquarters building. And that's where that standoff occurred early in the evening yesterday. Again, we're still watching Mayor Francis Suarez. We've got other folks with the city of Miami and also in the clergy community speaking as well. And this is one of those pastors speaking right now. So let's go back live and listen in.
To come stand next to me because I want the community to see some things. One of the things that we've been talking about is that it appears as if this is a black issue. But red or yellow, black or white, we're all precious in God's sight. Amen. This is not a black issue. This is not a white issue. This is not a brown issue. This is a human issue. Yes, and yes, I agree with Mr. Mayor, and I agree with our police chief, and I agree with all of our city officials, managers, and commissioners. All of those officers need to be charged. All of those officers need to be arrested. But here's what we want to say to you today. We want to come to you today, and no matter what your faith is, no matter whether you read the Quran, no matter whether you're Buddhist, no matter whether you read the Torah, no matter whether you read the Bible, all of those faiths suggest that what we do in peace. Amen. There are 3 words that my Savior says that I love to repeat, and that's peace be still. And what we say to Miami today is peace be still. Now listen to me very good. If you go back and look at the protest yesterday, you will see that not only did the police handle themselves in a respectful manner, but they even led the protests. They guided the protests. They helped the protesters. They only put on riot gear when they had to. Our chief was on MSNBC yesterday condemning what happened to George Floyd. Our chief did a video a few days ago that said it was wrong and that it needs to be addressed and that arrests need to take place and that punishment need to be served. And so our Mayor Suarez, our Chief Kalina, our Manager Noriega, our city commissioners, pastors, and leaders, we're saying it's okay to protest. Every one of us have come from somewhere. This is a diverse community. We all understand protest. Even Anglos in the community understand what protest is about. But we should do our protests with peace. Now listen to me. If you look at the videos yesterday, you will see several people that were not even from Miami. They came from all parts of the country to tear up our city. Why would we allow people to come in and tear up our own city that we have to rebuild? I will protest with you because I believe we need some more sensitivity. But we've got to do it in a peaceful manner. So here's what I'm asking. Here's my challenge. Here's my charge. I need pastors, not just black but white, Hispanic, evangelicals. I need all of us to stand together on this issue because all of us say that we love humanity. Not only do we need the faith community, but we need business community. And listen, this is what we really need. We need millennials that have influence. We need hip-hoppers. We need rappers. We need those that can connect with the millennial community and say, listen, it's okay to protest. Your message has been heard, but let's not burn down buildings. Let's not set cars on fire. Let's not throw bottles. Let's not hurt anybody in the process. What good does that do to hurt our own community? Lastly but not least, we've got history here in Miami. We know what it takes to rebuild after a riot. It's not easy. It is not easy. People come into our town and tear it up, and it takes us years to rebuild it. We've got people right now that are unemployed, that are living on stimulus checks. They don't even have a job to go to. They've been dealing with a pandemic for over 60 days. Now, all of a sudden, on top of a pandemic, you're going to burn down a business that employs people. Now, not only do we have a pandemic that we're dealing with for COVID-19, we're now dealing with an outrage pandemic. We're now dealing with a pandemic of racial tension. We're now dealing with a pandemic that's stopping us from going forward, and we're moving backwards. I stand with all of these people today to say Miami shall move forward and not backwards. Amen. And we say that to the nation, praise God, that we are a model, to the nation. I know the heart of our mayor, I know the heart of our chief, and I know the heart of these commissioners, I know the heart of these pastors and our managers. We have sit down in a private room. Everybody has said, you know what? We hear the protesters. We got to do something better. We've got to meet together. We've got to say, listen, we got to learn how to treat everybody at the table of brotherhood. We've got to learn how to treat everybody the same. As I said when I opened up, red or yellow, black or white, we're all precious in His sight. Now help me welcome the pastor of the Trinity Church. I pastor Friendship in Liberty City. He pastors Trinity in Miami Gardens. But we're standing together on this issue. And I want you to help me show some love to Pastor Rich Wilkerson.
Thank you so much, Pastor Gaston Smith. And whenever you hear a presentation that powerful, you ought to just sit down after that. Let me just bring some conclusive thoughts. I am so humbled to be able to gather with my brothers to speak on this issue. Most all of us would agree that Solomon, if not was the wisest, certainly one of the wisest in the history of mankind, said in Proverbs 31, verses 8 and 9, that we are called to speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves. In fact, the New Living Translation says that we are to speak up for those who have been crushed by injustice.
Yes.
And that's what all of this is about. Mr. George Floyd, who Pastor Smith and I will be at his funeral, God willing, in Minneapolis this coming Thursday. Mr. George Floyd was simply moved from Houston momentarily to Minneapolis.
Yes.
Wasn't looking for trouble. And there he is, killed by a man that just was not a man of righteous sense whatsoever. We have agreed on that. We would like to ask that our justice system would do the right thing and arrest the other 3 police officers that were involved in this action. I think a lot of things would calm down, and then these other 3 policemen would have the opportunity to seek justice from the American justice system, which all of us have a right to. Beyond that, I want to say this. Without a coming together and a yielding of our own personal issues and beginning to love each other and serve each other, there is no hope for this nation. We are at a boiling point that it is at a place of ridiculousness as the tension is everywhere. Look for those who are trying to make the tension increase and celebrate those who are here for peace, to help us come together as brothers and sisters, as Americans, as people who have rights, but know that our God is our final source. I love you all. Thank you for this opportunity. Mayor Suarez, God bless you all.
And now I want to turn it over to the chairman of our commission, one of my brothers, Brother Keon Hardiman.
I want to remind everyone why we're here today. We're here today because a man was lynched the other day. 4 officers decided to end his life summarily because they accused him of a crime. One of them put his knee into his throat and pressured his head down into the concrete. And the others put the weight of their bodies onto his chest, onto his body. And that caused him distress. That distress led to him falling unconscious, and his unconsciousness caused then his death. Only 1 officer has been arrested, but all 4 are guilty of this murder. Because every single one of those officers heard his cries. Every single one of those officers heard him call for his mother, for his children. Every single one of them heard him cry out for air. I can't breathe. There were people that were there that were saying to those police officers, please check on this man. Please, he's losing consciousness. Please, he's non-responsive. And not one time did any of those officers check to see if that man was okay. That is unacceptable in the United States of America. That is unacceptable anywhere on this earth, that we should allow a man to die.
That's right.
Simply because your pride is bigger than how you feel about him as a human being. And so here we are today saying that protest is right. Everyone should hear this cry. There's not one person, black, white, Chinese, or other, that should look at this and feel that it is okay. Everywhere across this nation, we need to condemn these types of acts, condemn this type of policing, condemn this type of action, so that we can have a society that we all feel proud to live in. I heard a woman ask one day to a white crowd, how many of you would want to be treated the way that America treats blacks in this community? How many of you would trade places with someone of color? And there was not one person that took that challenge. Now, I'm a black man in America, and I'm proud of it. And every single one of us know what it feels like to be in fear of our lives day in and day out. That's right. And when you have to have fear of those who are meant to protect you, when you are disrespected by those who have professionalism attached to their name, professional law enforcement officers, when you have the people who are supposed to render you aid cause you death for no reason at all, there is a problem. And I'm glad today that we have protesters of every race that say that this has to stop today. Now, of course, here in Miami, we don't have any jurisdiction whatsoever for the arrest of those other 3 officers. But there's somebody that hears our voice. There's somebody that hears our cries. There's somebody that has common sense. There's somebody that has the ability to act. There's somebody that has the power to make that happen. And what we're asking for is for you to exercise that authority, for you to render that power to aid us in what we're looking for, which is justice for that man that lost his life that day on that concrete. If one of those officers, just one of them, had the courage to look at the other officer and say, that's enough, he would be here. Minneapolis would not have burned. D.C. wouldn't be burning. L.A. wouldn't be burning. We wouldn't be on these streets right now talking about this death that we've suffered. But they didn't. And so here we are in Miami, and we're saying, we want you to protest. I'm dressed for protest. We want us to hear everything that we have to say about this issue. But I want to make this very clear. The city of Miami was on the forefront of rendering aid to our community when we had the pandemic start here. We've been giving food to individuals day in and day out. There's not one elected official that I know of from the state of Florida that hasn't participated in feeding our community.
Yes.
The people are still suffering. People still don't have jobs. And just when we start to open up to allow people to work, people who have disguised themselves as protesters are trying to take those jobs away. Every single one of those businesses that are destroyed has people that work in those places. People that are from our community. People from Coconut Grove, Hialeah, Liberty City. People that are from Little Haiti, North Miami. People who are hardworking and need those jobs to continue to feed their family. And so we can allow other people who don't have the same interests as us as protesters to take away the ability for us to care for our families. And so what I ask is this: when you're out there protesting with us, if you see someone clearly violating the law, clearly destroying property, clearly putting you in harm's risk, clearly putting you in a position where you could be armed, you could be considered to be dangerous, and put you in a position where you could be hurt, yet you separate yourselves from them. Part like the sea. Yes, sir. Part like the sea, and show that person for who they are. Just the same way as those officers should all part from bad officers that show who they really are, and allow us to have calm protests in this community.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm gonna break protocol a little bit with my commissioner's permission and do something that Pastor Smith talked about, which is have somebody speak who can speak to the young in our community, a leader in our community. And I'd like Udonis Haslem from the Miami Heat to come up and please say a few words for us.
Come on,
Wow. Man, I say, how did I find myself here? You know, just wanted to play basketball and help the community, and there definitely has to be justice for George. Yeah. There definitely has to be protest for what happened to George. But I'd be lying if I said that it's been going about the right way. I'd be lying if I said that I'm proud of what's really been going on. I have an obligation to this community because this community has done so much for me. But I also have an obligation to the police department as well, who so many of my family members come here every day. Yeah. And they work, they take care of people, yep. They make sure people are safe. So there's got to be a better way. Yeah. I stand here right now, confused, torn, frustrated. I wasn't even supposed to be here. I literally text Keon and was like, yo, I just want to come. I just want to be a part of the solution.
Thanks for coming.
I just want to be a part of the solution. We have to have a plan moving forward. It has to be together. Like Keon said, you got to part like the Red Sea when you see that foolishness coming. As a black man, raising black kids in America, I'm scared as hell. Way more scared than I ever was for myself. Way more scared than I ever was for myself. It's not only black men and black lives, it's the other side of who protects those black men and black lives. Yeah. So now you're saying it's in the community and we got to worry about the people that's supposed to protect us. And I say to everybody, them people was terrible people before they put that badge on. Yes. They was terrible people before they put that badge on, man. For you to stand there and watch that, I ain't got nothing to do with your badge. That has nothing to do with your color. That has nothing to do with your race. That's something inside you that's messed up.
Yes, sir.
That's your soul that ain't right.
Yes, sir. Right.
So if you can stand there and watch that, I can't say we can blame the whole armed forces and everybody that wear a badge. Ain't no way. Because I know at least 50 or 60 of them that I know personally that would have stepped in right then and there. Right. And said, nuh-uh. So there has to be justice. There has to be protest. We have to be heard. We have to move forward strategically. We have to move forward smart. We have to move forward tedious, and we have to be together, man. How we doing it? We can't keep going this way. I know that. For me, I tell people all the time, my impact in this community is not going to stop just because I ain't shooting the ball as much as I used to. All right. Just because I don't get the minutes that I used to get don't mean that I'm just going to fade away and y'all ain't going to see me or hear from me. I'm going to figure out a way to master the road that I have. And the road that I have now is to be a leader. Yeah. And nobody's always, people say people are born leaders. I couldn't have been born for this. I would have never seen this coming. But I'm here now. Yeah. Thank you. And it's my responsibility to do something. So Keon got my number. Ken got my number. I'm here, man. Most of half my family work here, so I know they got my number. So we gonna figure it out, and we gonna figure it out together, man. Just know we gonna figure it out together. I love this city, I love these people, and I'm standing with y'all on everything that y'all believe in and what we believe in, and we're gonna do it the right way. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'd like to have our vice chairman, followed by Commissioner Carollo and Commissioner Reyes, say a few words as well, and then our chief will wrap things up. And then there are some members of the community that I think are important to speak if the media will patiently wait and have them speak as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Ken Russell. I'm Vice Chairman of the City of Miami Commission. I won't repeat what others have said, but I wholeheartedly agree I'm here as a legislator, as a policymaker for the city, because in order to heal, we need to look at ourselves and improve. Before we improve, we need to admit our faults. And this city is far from perfect in its history and its present. But I am very thankful that my fellow commissioners, our mayor, our manager, and especially our police chief have the heart and will to change and improve. We've done so over recent years, not only by strengthening the Citizen Investigative Panel, giving them more authority for accountability over our police force, by linking their budget to the police budget. That was passed by this commission to make sure that the Citizen Investigative Panel will never have less budget than 1% of the entire police force budget. The Community Relations Board, formed in the wake of the riots that happened here in Miami, could have lost its path or its use or its purpose. But even this past year, we decided to maintain that board instead of sunsetting it, because now more than ever we need relationships with between our community and the police. We need the advice of our community leadership to help guide us. In addition to that accountability from the CIP and the brotherhood that we feel from the CRB, we have the CAB. That's the Community Advisory Board. Because just less than 10 years ago, we were Minneapolis. The Department of Justice came to us and said, you need to improve. And we have been ever since then. I sponsored the formation of the Community Advisory Board to make sure that we are completely in line with the Department of Justice recommendations and regulations. And we hope to see that come to a conclusion this summer as well, because we are improving. And now more than ever, where do we go from here? What policies do we change? We have to admit that we all have implicit bias. I have it. You have it. Even my children in their young age already have implicit bias. And while you cannot see into the heart of a protester and you cannot see into the heart of an officer, you can provide the training that mitigates the outcomes you do not want to see. And so I look forward to welcoming implicit bias training to our force and strengthening our ability to continue to improve as a police force, as policymakers, and as a community. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Carollo. I'm the city commissioner. I'm probably the elected official that's been around at different times the longest and has gone through the most disturbance in the history of the city. Last night, while in the streets, I was reminded of 1980 with Maurice Ferre, the mayor at the time, and I was a 24-year commissioner, and Uncle Charlie, Charles Hatley, pleading with us to make sure that his neighborhood wouldn't be burned. And the outcome of those disturbances took decades, and we still have not overcome the economic destruction that we had then. But I want to say this, that first of all, I need to commend all of our police officers, City of Miami, Miami-Dade County, state troopers. I was in the streets and I saw how many of these officers were insulted, offended, unlike anything that I've seen before. And they acted so professionally. They stood it. I don't know if many of you would have withstood that. And sadly, it was from not only some of our locals, but from people that was clearly from out of town. And if you don't believe me, look at some of the arrests that were made last night, were forced to be made last night by our police department, and you're going to see that there's quite a few names of people that are not from Miami. They're from different states of our union. And that's part of the problem that we've had here in Miami. and I suspect in different cities of our nation. While every one of the elected officials of our administration are united with protesters, that what happened to George Floyd was plain murder and cannot be condoned in any city in America. Neither can looting, arson, anarchy be condoned. Those that are doing that are destroying the memory and the justice for George Floyd. I doubt very much if he would have ever had wanted something like this to have happened across America. The majority of the businesses, small businesses by the way, that are being burned down, are being looted, they belong to African Americans, other minorities. How is that going to bring justice to the murder of George Floyd? You know, this morning I was flicking towards different channels in television, and I saw the back end of an interview with the niece of Martin Luther King. And she said something that stuck with me. She says, the slogan, "No justice, no peace," should be reversed. No peace, no justice, because if there is no peace, you cannot have the wheels of justice move forward so you do have justice. And what I saw last night was a protest that started correct, peacefully, and then it was taken over by maybe a couple of hundred people. How many were from the outside, I don't know, but there were quite a few, to try to burn, to try to loot, to create anarchy in our city. I have a video that if any one of you would like to see it, I'll be happy to show it to you. How one individual and one individual alone got something in his hands. I don't know what it was, but it was big, and he was breaking and smashing all the windows and the sides of a police unmarked vehicle that clearly had a City of Miami tag, so they knew that it was a government car. He was Hispanic. He had a hat on with the flag of Venezuela. I doubt it very much if he was Venezuelan. What does that have to do with George Floyd or to bring justice to him? It had to do more with someone trying to create division within so many tens of thousands of Venezuelans that have fled into our community because of the tyranny of a socialist narco regime, so that those of us from other Hispanic groups, from other groups, can reject them and think that this is what Venezuelans are doing in Miami. I don't believe that. What does the memory of George Floyd have to do with a couple of people bringing out a Sandinista flag, or someone else bringing out the hammer and sickle of communist China? And this is why all of us, peaceful protesters, people in government, the average Joe citizen that loves America, cannot allow those that don't care for America, that don't care the foundation of freedom and justice of America, that are trying to destroy it, allowed them to go forward. Miami, and when I say Miami, I'm talking about greater Miami, Miami-Dade County. Well, we have 12.5% of the state's population. We have now some 35% of the COVID-19 cases. We've been hit hard, real hard. Many of our people are been out of jobs. Others have had their hours cut in half. Just when we're trying to start getting out of that, we can't afford to be hit again by another whammy. We can't afford to see our small business burned down. We can't afford to lose more jobs than we've had already. And this is why, as one voice, we're saying we stand, we applaud, we welcome peaceful protesters. But if you're going to go out there to loot, to commit arson, to commit anarchy, it stops here today. You're going to be arrested. We're not going to condone it. It's not going to happen in Miami. You're not going to take jobs from our people. You're not going to destroy small businesses of African Americans and other minorities here in Miami. It's not going to happen. So I suggest you go to another city and carry your agenda somewhere else, because in Miami, you are going to be arrested tonight. And please, look at all the names of all those that have been arrested. I think you'll see some of what I'm talking about right there. But having said that, I'd like to thank, in my final words, the overall first responders for the effort that they have put down through the last almost 3 months of the pandemic, COVID-19, that we have faced, from the medical field to the cashier and bag boy at the grocery stores, to, yes, our police officers, paramedics, firefighters, sanitation workers, and others, that thanks to them, and so many of them risking their lives, in fact, some of them have lost their lives, for us, we've been able to make it as of today. So I plead with the vast majority, the 99% of people that respect the law, that love Miami, that love America, to not let a small group that has a hidden agenda destroy Miami today.
Amen.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Good.
Sure.
Well, you know, I'm old sometimes. I'm crazy. I'm going to be very brief. I know the sun is hot, and everything has been said. Everything has been said. I'm here not only as a city commissioner, and I'm here as a Miamian. That's right. Yeah. I came to Miami. I was brought to Miami in 1959. Wow. 59. And as a teenager, I went into the 60s. And in the 60s, I witnessed the big, I would say, the movement, civil rights movement, and I did admire Dr. King. And I'm going to bring Dr. King because Dr. King, in my opinion, it is the biggest person that I have ever met that was an advocate of change using peaceful means, peaceful way. Dr. King will never condone what's the violence and the looting. Never. It never happened. And when I was a young man, I had the privilege of working with my brother here. Come here.
Pastor John. Yeah.
Reverend Dunn. And the church.
Grandfather church.
Your grandfather's church, and we used to pray together there. That's
right.
And we, at that time, we were trying to bring this community together.
That's right. Still trying.
And we're still trying.
That's it.
And as a Miamian, we're going to be still trying.
Still trying.
We old men, but we are going to keep on trying and keep on working. And I have a message for those people that want to divide us. Those people that are, I don't know who they pay, what they pay by. I don't know who pays for their trips going back and forth. Get your gear, get the hell out of here.
That's right. Okay? That's right.
We in Miami, you are not welcome.
That's right.
You are not going to divide us.
That's right.
We're going to work together for a community that we are really be representing justice for everybody. Doesn't matter where you come from.
That's right.
Doesn't matter your color, your skin, or what language you speak.
That's right.
Okay, so
That's the only thing that I have to say, and sorry for the taking longer than I was.
Yes, my brother.
It is hot, guys. I'm going to have our chief wrap it up. Chief, you want to come up and say some conclusion remarks? I know Rodney maybe may want to say something. And Steve, if you want to say something. I know it's...
I know that it's hot, and I'm really grateful for everyone and your patience. I'll be really brief. Everything really has been said. I'm just really personally very grateful for the community leaders that we have here, that are here because they love the city of Miami. I mean, UD really said it best. You know, we love this city, and that's why everybody's here. Of the 57 people that were arrested, 13 of those 57 live in the city of Miami.
Wow.
Okay, so we have Minnesota, New York, Georgia, people from outside of the county. That was arrested. And the reason that I think that's significant is, please don't make the mistake of letting someone from outside suck you in to destroy our city. This is a beautiful city. We love, by the way, the folks that are here from Minnesota, New York, and Georgia, and all those places. We love tourists in Miami.
Yes,
you know,
that's right.
Come and spend your dollars here. You know, don't bring hate and anger. And that's just my biggest message here. This press conference, what I've taken from this and listening to UD and everybody else is, man, this is about love. This is about love. And you want to come out and protest, we welcome you and we will protect you. And you should be angry with what happened. But don't let that get twisted by someone that has hate in their heart and wants to destroy us and separate us further. Please don't do that. If you see somebody breaking the law, separate yourself from that person, because if you don't, you are culpable. If you don't do that and you become part of that mob, you are culpable. You are part of the mob now. And don't do that. Separate yourself so it becomes very easy for us in the police department to see who is in fact the person that wants to break the law and doesn't care anything about George Floyd and justice for George. And those are my words. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'll be on the side. Sí, el mensaje mío es muy sencillo y muy fácil. A mí me llena el corazón con alegría con la cantidad de personas que están aquí.
Okay, so that is Miami Police Chief George Colina. No other way to say it, a strong press conference led by City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez with a number of other speakers, commissioners, Udonis Haslem of the Miami Heat. Clear message, takeaway from the press conference, all in agreement, imploring those 3 police officers in Minneapolis that were onlooking in the death of Mr. Floyd. They be arrested. Joe Carollo calling it plain murder. The other takeaway from this press conference amongst all the speakers, the looters, the arsonists, the vandals in the city of Miami will not be tolerated, will be arrested. And again, yesterday, 57 people arrested, and Chief Colina, you see him there, saying that only 13 of those people live in Miami. Now, some could be from other parts of South Florida, but 13 of 57, only a very small percentage arrested, live in Miami. Once again, we've been looking at this press conference in the city of Miami. More coverage throughout the day and the night right here on CBS 4 News. I'm Steve Goldstein. This has been a CBS 4 News special report.